You ever walk into a room and instantly feel like you don't belong? Like every man in there has something you don't. You overthink everything you say, but you keep telling yourself you're just being humble, when deep down you feel invisible. That's not humility. That's insecurity hiding behind politeness. So, in today's video, we're going to talk about where real confidence comes from, what real confidence is, and how you can get it by the end of this video. Let's talk.
All right. So, what is the difference between real confidence and fake confidence? Or I guess you would call it like arrogance.
I think it's important first to just define what confidence is. Right. Oftentimes, when people think of confidence, they have a certain image in their mind, usually of themselves or of a person, maybe head held high, commanding a room, being the center of attention, getting their way, having sway, influence, validation, praise, worship. But confidence simply is the expectation of success. Right. Confidence is, I'm going to take a particular action, or I'm going to pursue a particular destination vision, and I expect to get to the destination. I expect to get the thing I desire. And so that is actually a feeling, right? But as we talked about in previous videos, feelings emerge from beliefs. And what are beliefs? Beliefs are simply the way you perceive whatever is in front of you. Right. So if I believe the planet is cubical, right? Then I'm going to perceive reality slightly different than somebody who thinks the planet is a sphere, or people who perceive that the world is flat. Right. That's going to be a belief, and the belief, a quote I haven't heard anyone else say, but belief, the organ of belief, are the eyes. Right. That's the organ of belief. Not even the brain, the eyes. What you perceive, what you see. And so let's boil that back down to confidence. If confidence is a feeling, an expectation of success that exudes in every move, every sway, every utterance of a word, the eye contact, the body language. If confidence just radiates out like a small sun within the center of the person's body, and it just radiates everywhere around them. If that emotion comes from a belief, what's the belief? The belief is that things work out for me. Things will eventually work out. I will get it in the end, no matter what. That's an expectation of success. And so now that we've defined it, and we go back to your initial question, what's the difference between real confidence and fake confidence? Real confidence isn't about other people. Real confidence is about the individual and the vision. That's the only relationship.
About self.
Right. What is my assumed likelihood that I'll get the outcome that I desire? Right. Fake confidence, in the way people think of it, is, I'm going to assume, I think I know what people are trying to say, like the kind of confidence that gets easily shattered by one stone against, like, oh man, screw you, and it seems like they fall apart like the house of cards. The kind of confidence that I'm fairly certain most people think of when they think of fake confidence or fragile confidence is the kind that pings on its environment. It's an individual that pings on its environment for feedback on how to feel about themselves.
Right. So if you walk into a certain room, your confidence level is higher in this room than if you walk into another room. Like, it's based on what's going on around you, who's around, and all the things.
Bingo.
Yeah.
It's contextual.
Right.
It's not core. What's the old pickup term back in the day? It was core confidence. It means in any environment, you're the same man. Right. So if you're talking to a billionaire, you're talking to a homeless guy, you don't fluctuate in your identity. You show up, you hold the same level of eye contact, and you have the same positive expectation that this conversation will go well, that this will go well. That's the lens through which, remember, beliefs, the organ of belief are the eyes.
Yeah.
So it's how you see yourself.
Right.
Right. What is the perception one has of themselves? What is one's self-image, which is another conversation. But the self-image, which is just an accumulation of beliefs you have about your identity throughout your life. Mm-hmm. Who do I think I am?
Yeah.
Right. That's your self-image, or your ego, as it's more popularly called. That identity, that program dictates how we move throughout the world, and how we move throughout the world dictates the outcomes and the life, the relationships we have, how we're treated by women, how we're treated by our peers, our level of financial success. All of those things are dependent upon the self-image we have. And so if we go back to self-image we have, fake confidence, or contextual confidence is when a person, you're like, man, he's a alpha male when he's in the gym, or when he's doing Brazilian BJJ, or he's in the when he's at work, but at home his wife has him whipped and he's a bitch or a pussy or a wimp. And it's like, how is that guy? Because he has contextual confidence. When he has the affirmation of his environment, when they're like, you're the best guy in the sales office, he can be loud and proud, and he can, because he assumes that his status within the environment is what it looks like to have value. Because what is confidence? Confidence is assuming that, fundamentally it's the assumption
that everything will work out.
Everything will work out, meaning you're not broken. Fundamentally it's the assumption that you're a functioning person, that if anybody else could achieve anything ever, and you're not broken, because fundamentally low self-confidence is the assumption that other people can do blank, but because I'm one of the broken few in this area, I can't. Right. There's some malfunction within my biology or psychology. And because I'm one of the malfunctioning few, it just can't.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Right. Yeah. Nothing that I learn will ever change it. Nothing that I do will ever change it. Nothing that I adopt. No change will change
what's already
a broken toy.
Yeah.
And so people go around like they're broken toys. And oftentimes the compensation, which is fake confidence, will come from external validation. If I can just get this certain amount of money, then I can feel good about myself.
Right.
What's the point of money? Money is the ability to purchase reactions.
Right.
So if I can purchase this car, then I can purchase their reactions. I can purchase the reaction of, oh my God, bro, is that your car? I can purchase the reaction of, oh, is that? And in other people's reaction, in other people's positive affirmation, I can finally affirm myself.
So that kind of lead me to my next question, because you're talking about a lot of like external validation that leads to this quote unquote fake confidence. So can a person build confidence within themselves without that external validation, whether that be money or women or whatever that look like for that person?
That's a tricky one. I don't think the answer I'm about to give is what people will think the answer is.
Right.
In some sense, yes, and in some sense, no. I say yes because it's almost as if one would need to, because the thing about confidence, the positive expectation, let's break it down. Why would someone have the assumption of that? Sometimes it can be in childhood. The parents affirm the identity that you're successful, you're successful, you're successful. But even if unless you're a delusional person, you're going to need some level of evidence of success. Right? Have I ever wanted something and successfully obtained it?
Right.
And the more evidence and repetition of success, did I want something, did I get it? Did I want something, did I get it? Did I want something, did I get it? Right? It's wanting and getting. How often do I want something and I get something? Right. And so somebody may want something in the financial realm and tend to get it. So they have a lot of confidence when it comes to acquiring money. Some people maybe, when I wanted a woman, quote unquote, I was attracted to a woman, she always got attracted to me back. So they have a lot of confidence when it comes to women. If it's like, okay, well, I wanted to get in a certain weight goal or a certain distance in track or a certain sport goal, they may have confidence when it comes to athleticism. Right. They may have confidence when it comes to fitness, right? I wanted and then I got. So if confidence is the expectation of attainment of the expectation of success, you need some evidence typically coming up through childhood of wanting and getting. Yeah. So in some sense, when we're just starting in the development, even teenager, even young adulthood, it's natural to have a naive sort of wanting of getting rich or getting famous or getting women, and so the desire to obtain something is tied into confidence in and of itself. Yeah. Right. Otherwise, what are you expecting? Right. If there's no goal. Mm-hmm. So there has to be somewhat of a history of repeated success to get confidence. But it's almost as if the way the game is structured is you get fake confidence first. And then the fake confidence gets shattered and then you develop core confidence. So let me see if I can think of a story. I remember, well, let's take women as it is now. As things are now, okay, the average guy's relationship with women, whether he knows it or not, most guys' core desires to get the affection of a woman that they are attracted to. Right. It's not to get the affection of any woman, because otherwise just go get the affection of a 500-pound woman. Yeah. You're like, well, I don't want that girl's affection. It's not just about getting sex. Get the sex from a 500-pound. I don't want that. Right. So I always say to men, don't care about sex as much as they care about the packaging of the sex. Right. They care about the package. It's not, you're just like, oh, men all about, pee. I'm going to censor it a little bit. Right. They care about the packaging of the pee. Right. Right. I want her to be hot. I want her to look like this. They all have the same pee. But he cares about the packaging. Because he can't know, even if a girl, there's no evidence that a girl that's a 10 to him has better pee than a girl that's a 2. Right. You don't know what you're getting, but the packaging gives him the impression that he's going to enjoy it more because he's highly attracted to her. Yeah, it's the external. The external. Yeah. So with that, he's like, okay, well, if I could get the types of women that I want to want me back, give me affection, tell me I'm awesome, affirm me, then I can affirm myself. And so the self-confidence will come from the external affirmation of beautiful women. And most guys, if not all guys, develop from that. It's, if I can get a certain girl to validate me and want me, then I can validate myself. We don't think about it like this. And so as I was going through my journey growing up, I knew it bothered me that with the cold approach at the time, where I couldn't approach a woman that I didn't know and I desired. Right. So I knew I lacked confidence there, because why would I not do the thing? Yeah. Because I have a low expectation of success. Right. I don't expect it to go the way I want. I don't know what to say. I've never done the low expectation of success. And when you have a low expectation of success, you have a low action. I was going to say a high action threshold, but let's make it a little simpler. You do little to nothing. Right. Because why would you do a bunch of work and exert a bunch of effort in your life force just to get nothing in return? Yeah. So it makes sense logically. If you don't expect to win, why play? Why do it? Yeah. So for me, there was a fundamental identity where I was not inferior to anybody on earth. So if I saw men, that's why I don't drink. It started back when I was a teenager. If I saw other men capable of speaking to a woman confidently without alcohol, I was like, I am not. Now, this was a very ego and pride driven way. in my younger self.
Right.
But it was like, I'm not beneath any man. If another man can do it without drinking, I'm not drinking. But I am still scared, so I'm going to have to get through this somehow without alcohol. Mm-hmm. And so me not drinking alcohol had nothing to do with health when I was 18. It was about defiance, right? I will not have a crutch, because if I have a crutch, I'm beneath the man that doesn't need one.
That kind of sound like me with my consistency thing, with me not eating red meat.
Mm-hmm.
Like the original reason for it was so I could build that consistency, but then it wasn't about a health thing originally. It was just about I want to be consistent with something, but I just had to say it. I'm like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Whatever emotion motivates it, it will differ, but you're still potentially going to get to the same outcome, but fueled with different fuel, right? And so for me at that point, I knew I lacked confidence when it came to meeting new women and expecting to attract them.
Yeah.
At the time, it wasn't like there were no opportunities, but I didn't like the idea that other guys could do it and I fearfully could not.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, let's do this. And so it took me quite some time, probably 2 years before I actually really, I had little moments and spurs of inspiration and courage, but to the point where I was really putting myself on the line, probably 2 years and a year and a half later or so.
Right.
And so around that time, I was doing a lot of things that were out of my comfort zone to prove to myself that I could.
Right.
And so in that was one desire. I want to be able to attract the kind of women I want to attract, because the fact that other men could do it and I couldn't, I don't even say I couldn't, but I believe I couldn't more accurately.
Yeah.
Because it's more accurate to say I assumed that was the case.
Right.
Because of my gunk within myself at the time, my false beliefs.
The lens you were seeing.
The lens I was seeing was not accurate to what reality was.
Right.
Which is what insecurity is.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to conquer this. And I thought when I slept with the series of multitudes of beautiful women and had these sexual experiences and had it all, then I'd be the man, meaning I'd be at the top of the totem pole. I've had all the threesomes. I've had all the beautiful women. I've had I've had all of them and a bunch of them and da-da-da-da, and they all want me and my phone's blowing up.
Right.
External evidence would validate that, okay, I'm officially him now.
Yeah.
Right? And so in that pursuit initially, and that could be money for some men, that was women for me. But for some men it's financial, for some men it's getting a good body. And so in the pursuit of that, men typically acquire fake confidence first, meaning their identity and sense of self-respect is dependent upon the environment behaving a certain way.
Right.
Meaning people need to react to me a certain way. And usually those kinds of guys, let's say it's a guy who makes a lot of money, and he needs you to know he makes a lot of money, and he needs you to react to the fact that he makes a lot of money a certain way. So if you're like, oh, cool, bro. Anyway, what else? That will be very painful for him, because the point of me doing all this was because I wanted to be treated a certain way.
Right.
I wanted you to perceive me a certain way.
Right.
And your lack of reverence and impressiveness for what I've obtained, what I've achieved, bothers me. And so I may not like you, or I may try to impress you even further.
Right.
Right. And this is very common with men and women, right? Guys who acquire a lot of things will try to really difficult. Like, so I really need you to be impressed, because if you're not impressed, what the hell did I do all this for?
Right. It's like I did all this for nothing.
Right. Like, you must be impressed by me.
Right.
So sometimes, and this is actually more common than not, most guys get trapped in the false bravado, fake confidence paradigm.
Yeah.
However, some do escape it. And in the escape, they eventually go, man, how I feel about myself is almost completely predicated upon the world reacting a certain way. And when I don't get that reaction, going back to the story, when I got to a place where, I remember I used to go out to networking events when I was building the business way back. And one of the things that would always happen, because I still was me back then, I'd always prefer to be around women. Not because I didn't like dudes, I had no problem with dudes, but because my identity was built upon having positive reactions from beautiful women, I didn't have that awareness at the time, but I'd always go to these events almost trying to see what crazy story could happen. Right? What woman is going to want to sleep with me by the end of the night? That went from a conversation about business and seeing the transition of lust in her eye to her wanting to give me her number and inviting me back to walk her to her car. And I got a high off the I could have. I wouldn't necessarily take every opportunity, but I always wanted to know that I could have. And the wanting to know that I could have was I wasn't the conscious of at the time, was the I desired the environment to reaffirm my identity. So what I started to notice was that there were times where I would go to an event and maybe there are not any women there, or any beautiful women there, or if there are beautiful women there, for some reason it didn't go the way I expected it to go. I would notice a negative emotional state when I left. And I started to observe that. I'm like, why do I feel bad? So I would leave these events feeling bad, and I'm like, even if everything went well, even if I got clients, even if I got a connect, everybody else loved, it's like, but no attractive women validated me tonight. That's fundamentally what it was.
Right.
And I realized over time that I started to have that pep in my step. That pep in my stepness was highly linked to the positive reactions of women, beautiful women, wherever I go. And I'd always get in a room, I sort of ping to see, is she choosing? Could I have her? Like, it was this constant state of constant desire for reaffirmation. And every sexual encounter, desiring her to, you're the best I've ever, like, it was this constant thing. And then having an additional layer of external validation, which is other men going, bro, you're the man. Oh my god. Oh yeah. Whenever he's in the room, they're all on him. Da-da-da. And it created this thing that from the external world would have seemed like the ideal person you would want to be, right? Who doesn't want to be the guy, right? But it's a weird puppetry that goes on, because now I'm the puppet of the reaction of the woman or the women every room I go in.
Right. Because
I can't generate my own sense of contentment and peace.
Right. Without that validation.
If I see three beautiful women that weren't, like, do they know that I'm here? I need to go make sure that they realize how much of a catch I am. Right. Now, I'm not going over there trying to impress them, because I knew how to make them react in a certain way to me. So it was almost like a blend of my personality became the reaction, and part of it was the real, authentic me.
Yeah.
But because when you get very good at understanding how women think, in 5 minutes I can get them all wide-eyed and giggly, and so I'm like, okay, yeah, whew, got my got my fill. Now I can, I'm good. You know, I don't need to take this any other, or maybe I want to take it somewhere more.
Right.
But you need that.
Yeah.
And so fake confidence is when you become a puppet to the reaction of a specific group of people. Yeah. Sometimes that's financial, sometimes that's but it's a certain group of people that if they don't say a certain thing to you, if they don't tell you you're the man, if they don't react the way, you crumble internally.
So with that, even considering your story, like, you had a lot of that fake, like the external that validated you and gave you that sense of confidence that left you still feeling like that, like, what is this? Like, why, when I didn't get this reaction, why do I feel like this? So how does that shift to, like, having actual internal confidence, like, rather than, because you say it's a state, you start with that fake confidence, and then how do it transfer?
Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes
right. You said that sometimes people get stuck in that. Yeah.
Right. But for those who do, it's usually a pain moment where either you get a really negative reaction that completely conflicts with the identity you have. So let's say a woman's like, "Fuck off, I hate you," and or I'm in an environment where no woman validated me.
Yeah.
If that were to have happened, it would just, and so eventually you get to a place where like, I'm sick and tired of my emotional state fluctuating based on something I can never control, which is the reactions of others.
Right.
And so if you try to go control the reaction of others, I'm actually their puppet. What I'm going up there and saying is, please like me. Right? And I'll do whatever it takes to get you to like me. I'll show up whatever way I think you want for me to. So I'm actually not showing up authentically. I'm showing up in a way that I know will get me a certain reaction.
Right. It's slightly altered.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so eventually you get tired of the fluctuation emotionally and you just want true confidence.
Right.
And that's when you start to, and there are psychological exercises that I've had to undergo on myself and with clients that have had this thing in the past, to what's called release all attachments and resistances around letting go of the reaction. Because even though it sounds normal, most people operate like this. If not, 99% of people are the puppet to their environments.
Yeah.
It's very rare you find like true core confidence.
Yeah.
Very rare.
Yeah.
Very, very rare. But you'll get to a place where you have to commit, as they say, I think it might be an algorithm thing. You have to delete your own ego. Right. You have to commit ego deletion. But it's the most difficult to do that when the world affirms it. Meaning, the saying, I think it's in the Bible. It is in the Bible, right? It's easier for a man. It's easier for a rich man to go through a needle than to get into heaven. The eye of a needle than to get into heaven. And what it's saying is that, at least my interpretation from this particular lens, is that it's very easy to get rid of your ego and self-image when it's a bad reputation, where it's negative affirmation. You go, okay, I'm going to abandon. It's very difficult when you're that guy.
Right.
And there's no sign of that changing, and then get rid of it for something you don't even know. You presume there's another side where you no longer are a puppet to your environment, but you've never actually known it experientially. Right. You conceptually grasp what that might be like, or that it might exist, or you may see it in someone else, but you never really know what that would be like. And so you're like, man, I'm gonna give up being the man. It's not like you're going out and you're, like necessarily external will change. It's just that impulse within you to take the validation hit, to post that Instagram post, or to that little thing you can do that can get you that hit again, because you're going to be going through a deprivation state where you're going to be like, man, like, for example, using my example, I may be in a room and I'm like, okay, I want, dang, that girl's over there and she's beautiful, and I could go and feeling the desire and compulsion to, and going no, and
like withdrawal.
Yes, for sure. You're gonna feel that, like, and what's crazy is that there's gonna be negative emotion with the not getting the validation, but no positive emotion for a while.
Yeah.
And then over time, there's gonna come this groundedness that is independent of the reaction of the environment.
That's actually really beautiful, though. But it's kind of like the idea of like everything falls apart before it like get better, because if you really want to achieve that state of like true confidence, despite the external validation or whatever, like it's gonna feel like everything. From what you're saying, at least, it sounds like it's gonna be like everything falling apart before it gets better. And even and with that make me think too, like what? How does your relationship with discomfort shape your confidence? Like, how does that shape?
That's a good question. We're going to be assuming you're referring to the definitional confidence we talked about, the ability to expect success.
Yeah.
If your relationship with discomfort is not positive, or it's something that you avoid, then it's impossible for you to get confidence. Well, the actual confidence.
Actual confidence,
right?
Not fake confidence.
And the reason for that is because whenever we're going to obtain some new height, it's because we've never obtained it before. If you've done it before, in the way that people tend to mean the word confidence, usually when people they mean you are expecting to win in a situation you've never been in before. It doesn't mean that you've never been in it before in for example, if I go to approach a new woman, technically that interaction has never happened before. But within the category of talking to women as a experience, I have been there before. And I may have been there thousands of times.
Right.
But technically speaking, I've never spoken to that woman. Right? So it's both familiar and unfamiliar.
Right.
So when people use the word confidence, usually they mean it in you are expecting to succeed in something that you have never succeeded before. It's a new endeavor. So going back to discomfort, what is comfort definitionally? Comfort is remaining in a familiar territory. Right? It's actually not moving. So it'd be like a car going, I'm going to go to, it's parked in Houston, I'm going to drive to New York.
Right.
Comfort would mean I'm not leaving the parking lot. I'm not leaving the parking space. I'm familiar with Houston. I've never been to New York. So I'm going to remain here. Discomfort looks like pulling out of the parking spot and hitting the road. Every mile you hit is a mile you've never experienced prior to that moment.
Right.
So it's by definition uncomfortable or discomfort because it is outside of comfort zone. It's outside of somewhere you've been before. Right. And so usually, especially in the beginning, most of the things that will build real, true, even false confidence, just as a tool to get to core confidence, will be things that are outside of your range. Right. Otherwise, you wouldn't need confidence. Right. Right. People don't think about brushing their teeth as something they're confident in. They go, oh, it's just brushing your teeth. But if I say, okay, can you do 3 backflips in a row? People will have different ranges of the feeling we talk about confidence, the expectation of success. Right. Some people will go, hell no. Some people will go, hell yes. Different ranges of confidence. Even if, let's say, they have done 3 backflips in a row before, that doesn't mean that particular moment has never happened before. So every 3 backflip is a new 3 backflip. Even if they've done it before, there's no guarantee that this time you're going to land on your feet and you're not going to sprain your... So technically every new experience, even if it's similar to an old experience, is a new experience. Right. And so confidence is always necessary because the future is always unknown. Right. And because the future is always unknown, there is an element of discomfort that's possible, especially in the beginning when you're trying to learn a new skill or where you're trying to master a new talent or some new venture, some new destination. It's okay, as I move into the unknown, I quite literally have never been here before. I've quite literally never obtained that before. I've quite literally never been to that destination before. Right. And so it is built into confidence. The only reason confidence is necessary is to handle the discomfort that will come on the way to the goal. If there was no discomfort, you'd need no confidence.
Literally, yeah.
So a man must because this is about men and confidence, a man must have discomfort as his best friend if he intends to have any level of core confidence.
And I feel like that's super important, because people want to have confidence, but I don't think they want to go through the discomfort to gain the confidence.
Yeah.
It's like it's kind of not how that works. So
because within discomfort is the risk
of failure. Yeah.
And that failure could look different depending on the endeavor.
Yeah.
Could look like wasting time, could look like wasting effort, could look like death.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's like, woo, there's no guarantee I'll get to the destination, which is why confidence is necessary.
Yeah.
Right? If I had no confidence, then I would go, I'm probably not going to get there, so why even go? We talked about that in the beginning.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So, what are some habits or routines that confident men usually have that others don't?
Routines. I don't know. I can't speak for, again, because there's phony confidence and then.
Yeah.
But given that I'm speaking on this topic, it's pretty presumptuous to assume that, maybe not presumptuous, but I'll put it like this. For me to even answer that question is first having the assumption that I'm a confident man.
Yeah.
Right. And so let's pretend that's true for a moment. Right.
Are you not?
Well, that's the thing. That's what maybe when you asked that question, I thought about. It's like one of the comments I've heard often from people who've known me was even back when I couldn't approach, is that they couldn't. It was always a weird thing for them to say. They said, "I can't see you having an insecurity," and it's always been like, why not? Like I'll literally tell them, oh yeah, I think I've. But what I came to understand was that lens of expectation of success, when I'm thinking about the endeavor, I guess the way I think about what an insecurity might be and how I feel the presence of how I feel in person or how I speak, it'll be like, yeah, I'm really insecure about my eyebrows. Man, I hate these things. The way it sounds when I say it makes it not sound like it's an insecurity.
Right, it's not that deep.
Right.
That's awesome.
So I think the tonality and then the feedback people have gotten, I was like, oh, okay. I'd never really, like when you're in that space, you don't go through the world going, I'm a confident man.
Right.
The experience is like, I will not stop.
Yeah.
I'm beneath no one and I will obtain it no matter what. That's the dialogue of what people perceive as confidence.
Right.
It's less I'm a confident man. I'll have you know I'm a confident man.
That's just like if you a real dude, you're not going around like I'm a real nigga. It's like, are you?
Right. I have a huge penis. I'll have you know, woman.
Like, who you trying to prove, us or yourself? Like,
woman, I have a huge penis. I'll have you know,
whole time,
lady. Do you know who you're rejecting? You missed out on a schlong. She's gonna be laughing like that, right? Right.
Oh my God.
So typically, those who possess the thing aren't going around trying to convince everyone.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably why that was a blind spot. Now, to answer the question about habits, it actually comes back down to the very thing you just said. I wouldn't say there's habits in any particular arena.
Yeah.
But it is a particular disposition towards life, which is that I don't submit.
Right.
I don't submit to the environment. I don't submit to my circumstances. I don't go, I'm just fat, and that is what, I'm not a broken toy.
Right.
So it's a disposition towards life of I will not submit.
Yeah.
And even when you want to submit, it's the tendency to reaffirm and can I take one more step? I might not make it, but can I take one more step?
Right.
Right? Can I take one more step? One more step is possible.
Right.
And then after the next step, could I take one more step? So I'd say on an identity level, there's just the assumption that they're not a broken toy. Mm-hmm. Now, there are ways we can get to, if you are listening to this and you're like, but I feel like a broken toy, there are tools that, matter of fact, the link will be in the description down below. By now, the group should be public, and the link will be in the description down below where guys can join a private mastermind, the Relationhood Mastermind.
Right.
And in there, we'll share all these tools, information, science-backed, and probably some of the quickest things to get to the state we're describing in existence. So that's going to be a private space where you can be raw, real about where you are, because otherwise, if you don't admit it, we can't help you. Can't help those who don't have a problem.
Right.
And if you don't acknowledge the problem, then how can you progress?
Right.
So that'll be down below for those who feel moved to tap in.
Yeah.
That aside, after the identity comes the, could say, the willingness to risk. Right? Because you can have the identity and feel however you want. But what are your actions? The willingness to risk embarrassment.
Yeah.
Because regret is far more painful than laughter. Right? Regret. So those who move like that, they have a deep attunement with the feeling of regret. I thought this was just normal. I'm not quite sure where I haven't done enough reflection, research. I haven't gone deep enough into. It's just not an area I've attempted to uncover the truth in.
Yeah.
On why regret is lower in others, why some men are more willing to waste their lives than others.
Yeah.
But that said, the relationship regret is heavy. Like wasting life wondering what could have been, what I should have done, and being and imagining. I think that's also tied in with the assumption that you're not beneath any other person.
Right.
So it's like, man, I didn't take that shot, and I continue to not take that shot.
Right.
Like right now, guys are watching this video who know that there are changes they need to make.
Right.
And they're going to allow another year, 2 years to go by. That is something I can't. Like the thought of that, the thought of the version of Vidal that has to look back and say, I have 2 less years and I'm in the same position.
Right.
And I know people, or I know a version of myself that could have been different. And either I was too prideful to admit that I actually have a problem and that I need some help, or I was just in denial, or I was just too lazy, or it was just easier to blame my parents or the environment and I could just submit and lay down.
Yeah.
All those things are alluring, and I get that. But at the end of the day, the reason the suffering is there and the reason regret exists is because we kind of knew that that wasn't the path.
And we kind of knew that there was something else to be done too.
But it was risky. I didn't know if I was going to pass. I didn't know if I was going to succeed.
Right.
I didn't have the confidence.
Right.
And so that's why the dealing with the discomfort piece is so critical, because you're going to be uncomfortable. You're going to feel out of the, man, I was started making these videos, putting myself on camera and all that. That shit was uncomfortable.
As hell. I remember
Right.
you saying.
So I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Right. I'm a private guy. I didn't used to. But there's a greater, again, sense of obligation. There are brothers out there that if I didn't put this information out, when I see the nonsense online about guys blaming their environments and blaming women for their lack, when they haven't done everything, they don't know everything.
Yeah.
I have drastically different experience. Guys I've trained, guys who have gone through the prior programs, not because Vidal's information is so. It's because I'm a scientist. Right? There are laws of nature. There's a natural blueprint between the male and the female, the masculine and the feminine, to go to the women arena, that if you show up in a certain identity as a male, the blueprint of the woman will respond to that.
Yeah.
That's why some guys consistently get certain outcomes and some guys consistently, and then they go, well, it's just genetics. When you've done nothing to change your circumstances, or you've not tapped into the right informational source.
Right.
And so if you don't know everything, you can't have everything.
Right.
And then we go, oh, well, this. And so when I see these pathetic little situations, I'm like, well, what can I say? I'm not putting content out. So how can I go, things should be different?
Right.
So I had to check myself and go, well, you're going to have to get uncomfortable, or you're going to die a regretful man. And so I have to check myself and go, okay, well, it's either going to be comfort or regret. And so I stepped into the discomfort.
Yeah.
And then in stepping into the discomfort, I've gotten so many comments, worked with so many people. Like, that's a big ass deal.
Yeah.
And so coming back full circle, it's like, there are guys right now who know they need to pull the trigger on something, whether it's working with a relation, whether it's working with another person, whether it's some form of discomfort that they're avoiding.
Yeah.
And they don't want to take the first step because they don't know if it's going to work out.
Right.
But one thing that is guaranteed, the success might not be, but the failure will be. The regret will be.
Right.
And one of the habits, I think, if not all successful people or confident people have, because if you're confident, you likely are going to be successful more often than not, is that regret is too big a price.
Yeah, it's a really big price.
And they're more detached from the opinion and approval of others, but not because they were just born. I was not as I just said, I was highly attached to it.
Yeah.
But I realized and recognized that it was a problem, and so I'm like, I'm going to have to take the risk. I don't know what it looks like to free myself of this desire and need for female affection, especially when I can get it. But this is not the way.
Yeah.
So we need to change something. Back to take some risks. Back to go on the pathway again.
Right.
And here we are. It's a lot better now.
So last thing on it. What's one thing a man can do today, tonight, whenever, that could, what's one thing a man can do tonight to feel more confident tomorrow?
Get out a piece of paper. So if somebody's listening to this, in his mind he's going, I'm just listening to a video. The second thought, whatever he's about to say, I'm going to do it later. Whatever he's about to say, I'm going to do it later. So if you're listening to this, you know that's going to your head. You are already expecting to do what I'm about to say later.
Right.
And later will turn into never. So, before I say what I'm about to say, turn the video off unless you're going to do this right now. It's nothing that, no matter what you're doing right now, listening to me at work, you're laying in bed, whatever. Take a piece of paper out or take your phone out and type. And have this prompt in your head before you say it. If I was 100% honest with myself, the things I've been avoiding, the 5 biggest things I've been avoiding the most are, and I want you to list 5 things. If I was 100% honest with myself, the 5 biggest things I've been avoiding are, then list them. And pick one. I won't even say it has to be the biggest one. Ideally, you pick the smallest one. So the first thing, you can pick whichever one, as I said. You could pick the easiest one, the thing you feel that you can likely do. And I want you to take the smallest step you can to start in that direction. That could be, okay, I know I've been avoiding getting back into the gym. right in this moment, if that's the case, if you're somewhere where you can do 10 push-ups or as many push-ups as you can do them, and that's it. If you know it's signing up for a gym, just Google the nearest gym, and that's it. But do the bare minimum thing you can do. If it's a phone call you know you need to make, look at the person's name, hover over the call button, that's it. But whatever the thing is, do the bare minimum action you think you could do at the level of courage you can. It will be risky, you won't know what will happen, and you won't have confidence. Just know that going into it.
Right.
But that's not the point. We know that's par for the course.
Yeah.
The point of it is to start building shitty momentum. We call ugly progress, right? Because otherwise, especially because a lot of my audience members are intelligent engineer types, computer science types, teachers, just brilliant minds. And when you are like that, you tend to try to think 10 steps ahead before you make the move. And I'm like that. And it takes effort to just take the action without knowing the prediction ahead of time. And so right now it's taking that uncomfortable action. It's going to feel uncomfortable. If it feels uncomfortable, you're on the right track.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do it right and do the list, you're going to feel uncomfortable. That's why you're avoiding these things. And then right after that, you keep moving forward until you check off at least one thing on that list. If you do one thing on that list, you'll notice a surge of power coming through you. Some people are going to do one of the things on the list that day, right now as they're listening to this. Some people are going to do all 5. And one thing I'd say is if you did do one, make it to this point, and if you did do the exercise, comment down below, if you don't mind, the thing you did or the step you took. Not just because, I want the algorithm to boost his videos. Of course I do, because 1, it's best for me. 2, the content you just got, the like you don't give, the comments you don't post, is one less person who sees the thing that just benefited you. Right? So it's a win-win proposition. But the actual reason for me is that somebody else is going to look in that comment section and they were going to skip this and not do it, just like they always do. Another unconfident moment where they just succumb to the comforts.
Mm-hmm.
And them seeing your comment will inspire them to say, you know what, this guy did the thing. And it might have been a similar thing that they were avoiding doing. And it's going to give them a sense of encouragement, and that ripple effect will continue. So that's what I'd say someone could do.
Nice.